Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says NATO is holding off admitting Ukraine because its leaders are scared of World War III. This morning, Zelensky met with President Joe Biden, and NATO leaders announced a three-part package aimed at bringing Ukraine into the alliance. While Zelensky accepted, he said membership, of course, would have been ideal. Joining me now is Rose Gottemoeller. She's the former Deputy Secretary General of NATO and currently serves as a research fellow at the Hoover Institution. Thanks so much for being here.
Certainly.
I want to get your reaction first to what Zelensky said earlier today, accusing NATO leaders of being scared of World War III. Your take on that?
Well, I think that is a serious concern, and I actually am glad that President Zelensky has recognized that, because there is and has been a debate about this, whether, in fact, if Ukraine joined NATO right now, whether that would lead to NATO being drawn into a European war and potentially escalating to World War III and the use of nuclear weapons. So I think that debate has been a real one, but I also think that it's the right question to ask, and it's one President Biden has answered in that way, that we need to be extremely cautious in moving in this direction, but it has not prevented NATO from taking some firm steps to support Ukraine and its future membership of the alliance.
Mr. Zelensky also said, though, that he fears delaying Ukraine's invite into NATO only further incentivizes Russia to continue this war. What do you think about that?
I think it's up to the NATO allies in their military assistance to Ukraine and in their constant and very strong support for Ukraine, their coherence in supporting Ukraine, to deliver the message that it's a hopeless task for Vladimir Putin and for the Russian Federation to continue to prosecute this war of aggression, may I say, against Ukraine. And so I think that the Russians, too, are facing resource problems. They're facing resource problems in terms of manpower. They're facing resource problems in terms of getting enough ammunition and capability and capacity to the front. So I do think that Russia, too, has to be concerned about running out of steam, so to say. And so for that reason, I do believe that the most important thing now is this intense commitment by the NATO allies to support Ukraine in its fight with the Russians.
I do want to ask you a question about Russia while I have you. This, though, is not confirmed by NewsNation, but a former U.S. senior military leader is claiming the Wagner mercenary group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin may be dead. Have you heard anything of this? Is there any truth to this?
Well, there have been a huge number of rumors since Prigozhin staged his abortive coup. Well, he says it's not a coup. His march on Moscow on June 24th. There have been a huge number of rumors about his whereabouts and about his status. So I really can't comment on it. I have no information for you on that, but I think he is in a very, very delicate position, and he should be afraid of standing too close to windows in the Russian Federation.
Fair enough. Rose Gottemoeller, thanks so much for joining us. So appreciate your time.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.